We're going to try this again. My audio wasn't working in my last upload for whatever reason. Today we're going to talk about importing data the correct way to R. So I'm going to go ahead and open up RStudio. The first thing you're going to notice here is that we have a cursor that is blinking in our console. This is going to show up in the bottom left part of RStudio. You can type code directly into the command line, hit return, and R is going to do whatever you tell it to do. Now, sometimes I mess up when I'm writing code, and I also like to have control over saving the code that I write and maybe write myself some notes. That is where the script editor comes in. You can see that I'm using the hashtag line, typing in the code, selecting the line, hitting run, and it's going to pop down to the console. Next thing I need to do is choose my working directory. This is really the first thing you need to do every time you open up RStudio. I'm going to select the folder, in my case it's called R_examples, and open that. And you're going to see down here in the console that it has set the working directory. That means all the files I'm going to use today are in there. So going back to our script editor, again, the nice thing here is that you can write yourself notes using the hashtag sign. Before we actually import our data, I want us to take a look at the file that we're going to import. It's called serials.csv. And you can see here there are 5 columns of data. We've got both categorical data as well as numerical data. I'm going to make this a little bigger so we can look at it together. There we go. So one thing you're going to notice is that there are no special characters and there are no spaces anywhere in this data set. If I were to, for example, leave this as fruit space loops instead of fruit underscore loops, there is a strong possibility that R or RStudio would get confused. The next thing we need to do is make sure that it is saved in the right format, which is comma separated value .csv. I'm going to click save. You're going to come up with some potential error messages. Just go ahead and select yes. All right, so now our data set is in the correct form and we can get it into R. So now I'm going to go up to our script editors, write myself a note that says import your data. And the next line of code is going to essentially tell us how to do that. So first and foremost, we need to give our data set a name that is going to show up over here in our global environment. Now we can call this data set whatever we want. We might want to call it breakfast. We might want to call it BFast for short. We might want to call it bananas. We can call it whatever we want. The important thing here is that you give it a short and descriptive name. Again, you can name your data sets, your variables, whatever you want, as long as you can remember what they're there for. So everything, essentially BFast, the little arrow says that everything to the right is going to be named BFast. So the code that we're going to type in to the right of that little arrow is essentially the code to import a data set and name it BFast. So I'm going to use the Read Csv function, and you can see some notes here about how to correctly use that function pop up. So the first thing we need to do is open up a parentheses as well as quotations and write in the name of our file. So our file was called serials.csv. Then outside of the quotations, we put a comma and write header equals true. Now what does this mean? Well, if we hop back over to what our data looks like in Excel, you can see that the first row is a header. It gives the name of the data that is in each column. So for example, under cereal, we have the name of each of the cereals. So that tells R that the first line, the first row of your data, has information about the variable names. Next, we put in sep equals quotations, comma. And this is because we saved our data as a comma separated value. You see under the Save As menu in Excel that there are actually many different file types, such as tab delimited. Again, of course, our comma separated. There's even a space delimited text. Depending on what format you save your data set as, you're going to need to change this sep equals part of the code. But now we're all ready. I'm going to go ahead and run that line of code. And down in the console, you can see there's no red. That means everything went in okay. So what does this look like in R? We have this new BFAST data set that is based on our serials.csv data set. What does that look like? We can type in BFAST, hit run, and it returns what our data looks like. We can also just double click on BFAST over in the global environment. And you can see we successfully got our data set into R. It looks pretty much exactly the same as it does in Excel. And that pretty much finishes up this very first part of our intro R lesson for today. We will come back next time and talk about how to do some basic descriptive statistics, as well as how to save the script that we are writing in the upper left-hand quadrant of our RStudio platform.